From iconic spur-of-the-moment one-liners being anything but that, to certain supposed character inspirations being far from the actual truth. It's time to uncover just how valid these Star Wars facts actually are. I'm Gareth from What Culture Star Wars, and here are 10 lies about Star Wars you probably believe. Number 10. Jedi Knights are celibate. Largely framed as monk-like figures for the most part, it's not hard to see why most Star Wars fans would assume the galaxy's supposed forces of good were very much sworn to celibacy from the second they decided to follow the path of the Jedi. However, as George Lucas would later reveal to the BBC around the time of Attack of the Clones, it turns out that the likes of Anakin Skywalker bumping uglies with another isn't as off-limits as you initially expected. As Lucas put it, Jedi Knights aren't celibate. The thing that is forbidden is attachments and possessive relationships. So in other words, settling down to start a family with someone you're very much in love with, that's a big no-no. Feeling that the Force is particularly strong with someone else for one night only, no strings attached, however, that's apparently all good according to the Jedi Order's questionable rulebook. Number 9. Lando Calrissian was designed purely as a Han Solo replacement. Not for the last time on this collection of supposed Star Wars truths, I direct you to an intriguing Twitter thread created by Lucasfilm creative art manager Phil Szostak back in August 2019. Going out of his way to reveal whether a number of intergalactic myths were right on the money or drastically far from the truth. One of the most notable facts Szostak targeted with a social media proton torpedo came in the form of the truth behind why Lando Calrissian came into being in the first place. According to a popular urban legend, Billy D. Williams' character was only unleashed into this galaxy far, far away as a way of replacing Han Solo, with Harrison Ford not being nailed on to return for either The Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi before the sequels were written. Yet after happily re-signing to appear in Episode 5 and eventually Episode 6, the fact Lando wasn't swiftly brushed to one side all but confirmed that, while still possibly being a fallback should Ford's character be permanently frozen in carbonite, the smuggler was much more than a simple Solo substitute. Number 8. Ralph McQuarrie's artwork convinced 20th Century Fox on Star Wars. Sticking with Lucasfilm creative arts manager Phil Szostak's intriguing Twitter revelations now, and to what many felt was a supposed deal-breaker when it came to 20th Century Fox giving this galaxy far, far away the all-important green light. According to some corners of the old interweb, prolific Star Wars concept artist Ralph McQuarrie was the one responsible for blowing the minds of the various directors on the Fox board, to the point of simply having to pump money into this game-changing endeavor. But as Szostak would reveal in said thread, despite being handed various pieces of compelling artwork in an attempt to pitch and sell this sprawling tale to the studio, this still wasn't enough to entirely convince Fox to commit to the project. In the end, it was actually George Lucas's relationship with Fox executive Alan Ladd Jr. which helped seal the deal for the incoming flick, with it being noted in the making of Star Wars book that Ladd's backing was the key. Number 7. Mark Hamill said carry after destroying the Death Star. Never want to muffle his freakishly talented voice should the opportunity arise to sprinkle some additional Star Wars details onto his Twitter feed. Mark Hamill was at it again back in 2019, when he was confronted with an age-old myth about what actually tumbled out of Luke Skywalker's mouth upon greeting his pals post-Death Star destruction in A New Hope. To many, it's clear that the rebel hero was accidentally blurting out the real-life name of his co-star Carrie Fisher, when gleefully greeted by Leia Organa and Han Solo in the hangar. But Hamill has consistently denied this to be the case, with his most recent debunking of the theory coming on his Twitter account in a reply to a curious fan. As the actor behind the iconic Jedi Master put it, no matter how often this is debunked, it still comes back. The entire scene was dubbed, I said there she, as in there she is, when I saw her. George would have never allowed me to say Carrie even if I wanted to as a joke, which I didn't. It makes no sense. While some Star Wars moments are most definitely open for interpretation, Hamill himself draws the line at a piece of dialogue that he feels just makes no sense in the grand scheme of things. Number 6. Chewbacca's name had Russian origins. It's been well documented how a number of intriguing sources reused as inspiration for the fiery Wookiee sidekick by the name of Chewbacca. Away from George Lucas's dog Indiana giving the director the initial idea for a big furry side character in Star Wars though, another widely circulated rumor isn't actually as valid as his canine origins. Again uncovered during Phil Szostak's Twitter thread of Force-sensitive goodness, the idea of Chewbacca's name deriving from the Russian words Shudovshiai and Sobaka, yes I'm terrible at Russian, meaning monster and dog respectively, was thoroughly dissected by the Lucasfilm creative arts manager. As Sostak noted, Lucas himself went on record in the making of Star Wars book to admit that the likes of Chewbacca and other Wookiee names were created by simply changing words around, as you do, with there being zero mention of the aforementioned Russian inspirations. On top of this, the site that originated this particular myth did not come equipped with a source for said information either, again suggesting that its validity is questionable at best, much like my terrible Russian pronunciations. Number 5. George Lucas had 9 to 12 movies mapped out from the start. The creator of Skywalkers and Solos alike has often been cited for having a whopping 9 to 12 Star Wars features bubbling over in his mind from the very beginning. But the game changer himself has gone on record to reveal that this wasn't actually entirely the case, regardless of Mark Hamill once noting how the creator told him it was 4 trilogies during the filming of that first cinematic trip into space. While it would undoubtedly take on a life of its own in the decades that would follow A New Hope, George Lucas once told MTV that this was never planned as a 9-episode work. Going further, the father of Star Wars would add, "The media pounced when I made an offhand comment. It might be fun to come back when everyone's 80 and do another one of these, but I never had any intention of doing that." Despite eventually committing to crafting some sequel trilogy treatments later down the road though, Disney opted to go down their own route for episode 7 onwards, and steered mostly clear of Lucas's intriguing Leia-led new trilogy concept. Number 4. The Millennium Falcon was inspired by a hamburger. Han Solo and Chewbacca's Millennium Falcon has long come equipped with a rather bizarre origin story of sorts, with George Lucas himself once noting how he cited a hamburger as an early design idea for the ship. However, as Phil Sostak would again unpack in his compelling Twitter mission to uncover the truth behind many of Star Wars' often debated facts, this half-bitten burger with an olive on the side concept may not have actually been the source of inspiration for the finished article. As Falcon designer Joe Johnston would note later down the road, Lucas may have said that it could have the essence of a flying saucer, and that the designer landed on the disc-shaped hull after a series of very rough sketches. And adding further weight to the claims of the visual of a hamburger with an olive on the side providing the foundations for this eventual pop culture icon being all false, Johnson would also call the fact little more than an urban myth in a Facebook post too. Number 3. One specific C-3PO trading card is worth a fortune. As seen in the likes of one particular NBA legend LeBron James sporting piece of cardboard being put up for grabs for around $6 million recently, highly exclusive trading cards have a habit of being quite valuable from time to time. And in the case of one specific Star Wars trading card that first reared its head in the midst of 1978's top Star Wars collection, fans had long believed that a certain enhanced edition of a C-3PO card had substantial market value should you get your lucky paws on it. As uncovered by Snopes.com though, the 207 trading card, which depicted Anthony Daniels' hapless robot sporting a rather well-upgraded apparatus, was initially thought to be extremely rare and therefore rather valuable. Yet in reality, the same number of cards were printed of this obscene 3PO as any other of the Topps collection before the card was reprinted without the additional, length. Meaning that if you do just so happen to stumble upon a well-endowed protocol droid, you're likely not going to fetch LeBron levels of cash for the risky bot. Number 2. Harrison Ford improvised the "I know" line in the moment. Far from being a spur-of-the-moment outburst from Harrison Ford upon hearing Carrie Fisher's Princess Leia confess her love for the defiant smuggler, it turns out that the actor actually forged this plan sometime before the cameras rolled on that Cloud City set. As revealed in journalist Alan Arnold's transcription of a spot of brainstorming between Ford and director Irving Kershner on the day of shooting, the actor pitched, "If she says 'I love you' and I say 'I know,' that's beautiful and acceptable and funny." It was still entirely Ford's idea, but one that was discussed and negotiated, admittedly without a frustrated Fisher's input, before the director had ever called action. Number 1. The Wampa scene was written in specifically for Mark Hamill's injuries. An awful lot was made out of the evident change of appearance Luke Skywalker and the star behind the lightsaber, Mark Hamill, underwent in the time between A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back, with Hamill being involved in a car accident in 1977 and sustaining significant facial injuries that required doctors to take cartilage from his ear to mend his nose. A rumor would eventually snowball into a full-blown myth involving George Lucas writing in a specific scene to explain away his leading man's change of appearance. And while Skywalker's mauling at the hands of a Wampa early in the the Episode 5 day did partially help keep the real-life injuries from distracting away from the story being told. Lucas has since noted in Empire's Blu-ray commentary, "There's a scene in the film where Mark gets beat up by the monster, which helps even more, but that wasn't really the meaning of why we wrote the monster in the beginning. We needed something to keep the film suspenseful at the beginning while the Empire is looking for them." While admittedly giving the folks behind the feature a way of utilizing a terrible and unfortunate situation for the Skywalker star, it's clear there was so much more to this particularly gnarly opening sequence than merely acting as a cover job for Hamill's mishap. And that's our list of any other lies about Star Wars people probably believe. Let us know all about them in the comments section right down below, and do not forget to like, share, and click on that subscribe button while you're at it. I have been Gareth from What Culture Star Wars. Thank you as always for clicking on this video today, and I'm sure I'll see you very, very soon. Bye bye!